So I know some people are jumping out of their seats. I know some people are doing the whoo dance and they're so happy, okay? Because they found out that Trump has been convicted, okay? Um, whether or not you like him, whatever the case may be, whether or not you're going to vote for him, you have very different opinions, mixed opinions about what is going on currently. All right. We are going to get into this, okay? So I have an article here and it talks about what are Trump's next steps, okay? What is going to happen now? A New York jury found Donald J. Trump guilty on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in an effort to conceal a hush money payment made to a bronze star ahead of the 2016 presidential elections. Legally, Trump's next moves are easier to predict. Here's what can happen next, okay?
Megan Casella with a little more color from the courtroom here as this verdict has been delivered and the former president is found guilty on all 34 counts in the hush money trial. Megan, what can you tell us?
Absolutely, Sarah. We just found out that the judge has ruled that sentencing will be July 11th at 10 a.m. for former President Trump. That's when we'll know a little bit more about what the final punishment will be, whether he will go to prison, whether he will face any prison time. Again, the maximum sentence is up to 4 years in prison for these charges. So that'll be July 11th at 10 a.m. And then just a little bit more color from the courtroom coming in from some of our NBC News colleagues who are inside. They're painting this picture of President Trump sitting alone at the table, sitting stony-faced, not saying anything. One of his lawyers, Todd Blanche, has already been arguing for a motion of acquittal. So we do know on your question of whether they will appeal, it looks quite likely that they're going to be appealing this case. But for now, he's just sitting there. His arms are crossed, his lips are pursed, he's stony-faced and sitting there alone at his table they're debating the sentencing, when that would be. So we do know that's July 11th, and that's all we know at this point.
After delivering its verdict, the jury is dismissed. The case then moves to the sentencing phase, a process largely controlled by Judge Juan Merchant. Judge then has the sentencing date for July 11th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. He ordered parties in the case to file motions by June 13th. The parties are expected to submit sentencing memos in which each side presents arguments in favor of its preferred punishment, okay? Trump will also likely sit for an interview with the probation officer for the pre-sentence report. The interview will likely include questions about his personal history and criminal record. And one thing I would actually kind of want to mention is how people are talking about how he could still run for president, which we're going to get into. And people are like, okay, well, if you could still run for president, let's say I have a felony, okay? I have some kind of criminal record of some sort. Can I now just skip through that whole background check because you were still able to run for a job being the president? You're able to still run and be convicted, okay? So if I have a felony of some sort, whatever it may be, okay? So does that also mean that I can apply and still be considered without having to go through background checks because it's like nothing for you? That's what people are wondering, but let's continue. In the meantime, Trump will be free to speak to the press, travel, and continue his presidential campaign, okay? He will also no longer be bound by the gag order and the gag order that barred him from discussing witnesses, jurors, and the judge's family members, among others, okay? So that's the thing. People also wondering, should you even still be able to run just because you have been convicted of crimes? That's a question. Should I be barred from certain jobs because I have a conviction, because I went to prison or I went to jail for X amount of time? That's a pretty good question. It's a valid question. Trump's guilty verdict does not automatically make him a convicted felon. However, this label will not be accurate until after he is sentenced in July. The charges against Trump are Class E felonies, the least serious category under New York law. Each count carries a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison. Okay, and that's how they got, the large amount that they have now. Trump's sentence could include fines and restitution, probation, and or other conditions, but a sentence of imprisonment is not off the table. Okay, now some people have some thoughts on this. Okay, I was looking through the comments section that people were saying, and some people were saying, like, if this was a regular person, would this have gone on for as long as it has gone on for? Do you think that all of these charges, the 34 charges, would they have not been reduced to 1, 2, 5 maybe? Do you think that this is a harsh punishment? Now, you have some people who would say yes, yes, yes. Meanwhile, you have some people that would say no, no, no. Now, here's the thing, though, because this is something that should be brought up, because it is an interesting fact. Okay, so we look at all the stuff that's going on, right? Well, I guess the question would be this. Look at the drugs that were found in the White House. Okay, we all, come on. Okay, we know. All right, even though they said that they got the, Secret Service, they have the top-notch security, but then they don't know how this happened. Okay, so that's one of those things. It's like, well, should that be investigated? Should that be persecuted? You have different war crimes that are going on. Should that be allowed? Should that be something that we should just be like, oh, well, it is what it is? We have many presidents who have lied, had certain things, relations with certain women in the White House that were not their wives. So it's stuff like that. And it's like, well, shouldn't any of this other stuff be persecuted? But nothing for everybody else. It's like, But when it comes to him, it's like, okay, yeah, we got to get him on this one, this charge. But all of the other presidents or, first ladies, it's like nothing, So that's where you have your huge divide that's going on, is because you have on one side, Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad. The other side, Biden's okay. And then there's certain things that should be prosecuted that aren't. There's certain things that should be followed up on that aren't. And it's like, how is that okay, but this isn't okay? Also, another point that people make, maybe like, oh, well, he's a convicted felon. But then you would go and say, well, this person may be suffering from what appears to be cognitive decline, dementia. Should that person even be able to run? But then that will go into term limits and overall your health. And would you even be okay? Because that's another thing. Being the president of the United States, that's not an easy job. Okay. So you can't be a puppet, even though a lot of people are, but you can't be a puppet to the point where it's like, well, I can't remember what I ate last week. And it's like, well, would that now be okay for you to be president, even though you hardly remember what you ate last week? But then you have this over here. Is it okay for you to be a convicted felon? Is it okay for either of them to be running? Should somebody else be running? Those are the kinds of questions that a lot of people have been having. But let me know what you all think down below.